Hello and welcome to this lecture on music and permaculture. The title is Exploring Music as a Local Resource for Permaculture Design. This talk has been inspired by my Gambian friend Daniel Jatta. Daniel comes from a family of musicians and community entrepreneurs of the Jola people in Banjul. Like his father, he is an accomplished ekonting player, the traditional Jola lute. He is also an internationally renowned ethnomusicologist and economist. It is through him that I realized how much I still compartmentalize the arts in relation to economic community resilience or in relation to my interest in permaculture thinking. Daniel insists that only cross-disciplinary integration can provide the whole picture. In this video, I would like to explain to you why I think there's more to music than we might think. I would like to take you on a journey of projects around the world where music makes a real difference to communities. I would like to analyze that difference from a permaculture designer point of view. And finally, I would like to connect all of that with the permaculture design process. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Tobias. I'm a professional drummer and percussionist. I'm a music educator. I'm a producer of African artists in Senegal. And I hold an MA in ethnomusicology from SOAS London. I've been practicing permaculture for 10 years. That includes the diploma, teacher training, and growing food. So why do I make a big deal out of music? Let me ask you this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think music has been in making you who you are today? Did music play a central role in your personal development? You might be thinking now, well, we used to sing a bit in school, or that you did grade 4 guitar, or that as a young person you loved your favorite band. But that is not what I'm talking about at all. Before we developed the ability to communicate in words, our entire interaction with the outside world was music-based. We interacted through intonation. We responded to pitch, tone, volume, velocity, and we developed a repertoire of melody shapes way before we used words. All the mental and physical capabilities we developed during this very formative period were framed by music as the basis for understanding. To quote writer Stephen Mithen, music has been encoded in the human genome during the evolutionary history of our species. So, music isn't just something we do, but something we are, or rather something that has made us who we are. In permaculture, we have already understood that when it comes to patterns. We designers are obsessed with patterns, and we should be, for the simple fact that there literally isn't anything that does not follow some type of pattern. Let me give you another example. Your top is actually a long single thread. The only reason you're able to cover your body with it is because this thread has been rhythmically arranged to create a two-dimensional fabric. The same is true for the bricks that make up the wall around you, the pixels on the screen you're looking at, and the web of neural pathways in your brain as you read this. Rhythm is crucial in making a thing what it is. It is patterns that bring the world into being, a world which is through and through a rhythmically aligned system. One last example, just because it highlights the broader sense of music I'm trying to convey here. Your experience right now. This very moment might not feel like anything special, but as you sit here, you are locked into a perplexingly complex polyrhythm. You have a heartbeat, you have a breathing rhythm, you have a concentration rhythm, you have a hunger, thirst, and digestion rhythm. You have a daily circadian rhythm, which is also aligned to the yearly cycle of the sun. You have a weekly work schedule and an overall work-life balance rhythm. You have a sexual rhythm. You might have a menstrual cycle. You have a me time versus then time rhythm. Your life is a fabric, just like your top. So when we play music together, we experience joy as we celebrate the mechanics of life itself. We express ourselves musically not just through a universal language, but as a universal essence, which connects us all across all distances and barriers. Abundance happens when systems are well synchronized. What turns a spiral of abundance into a spiral of erosion is often a particular relationship getting out of sync. It's like planting tomatoes in November. From this point of view, you could say that all permaculture tries to do is to weave us back into Mother Nature's synchronicity. What is sustainability other than tuning back into the allocated space our species can safely occupy in the symphony of life without strangling the conductor? Work with nature rather than against it, it says. For some reason, we've stepped out of alignment. Something has pulled us out of the resonance with the planet. The psychiatrist and neuroscientist Ian McGilchrist argues that our problems in modern Western culture stem from the left hemisphere modes becoming more and more dominant. And those are narrow, decontextualized, and control-oriented. And therefore, there is a corresponding loss of right hemisphere ways of understanding, which are holistic, context-sensitive, and relational. A core intention of the permaculture movement is to reverse this trend. And we need the arts to make that happen. Because for good reason, our ancestors, since time immemorial, have turned to music and dance during challenging times. Anyway, time for some music. Have a listen to this. Nice, isn't it? Do you like it? What are you feeling? Are you having a life-affirming revelation about the cosmic order? No? Fair enough. But this is the West Eastern Divan Orchestra, and you are listening to Palestinian and Israeli musicians playing together. Now, how does it sound? Let me give you a quote from the orchestra's founder, Daniel Barenboim. He says, "Every musician in this orchestra has what any human being needs and what is not possible in the Middle East at the moment: equality, equal rights, and equal responsibility." I don't know about you, but suddenly I could listen to Beethoven's Fifth all day long. Chapter 2. Music as a function-stacking powerhouse. Remember the many functions trees fulfill in the ecosystem? If you plant a tree, you will one day receive a wide range of benefits. Trees are function-stacking powerhouses. And so is music. Music shows up in our lives in many different ways. Let's look at 6 of those, though there are others. We've just looked at a performance, for example, where music transcends borders, gives hope, opens hearts. As permaculture designers, let's remind ourselves, someone designed that orchestra from scratch. Someone had a vision, communicated that vision, found resources, overcame limitations, formed a community, started small, tested the idea, kept going, listened, and made adjustments along the way. A monumental achievement, if you ask me, and yet we can't really measure its impact, except that we feel something, hope, perhaps, or a renewed belief in the human spirit, perhaps, or a memory of how things could be, perhaps, but it's always perhaps. Music is qualitative and subjective in the eye of the beholder, and all too often it ends up at the bottom of the pile in a left brain world focused on more measurable outcomes. Let's look at a few systems and at a few principles. Here's another performance, this time by Bob Geldof and Live Aid 1985. The world came together to raise funds for famine relief in Ethiopia. Bob identified music as a local resource and applied it to connect a Western audience with a starving population in Ethiopia. Let's look at the basic system of this design. We have a design function, which is feed people in Ethiopia. We have a producer, which is Bob Geldof. We have a connector, which is the musical culture of pop celebrities. We have an audience, the Western listeners willing to donate money to a worthwhile cause. And we have an implementation mechanism. These are the aid agencies redistributing the funds. We'll see as we go along that this basic design structure repeats itself in other projects involving music. Let's look at another orchestra. And this time, it's an orchestra that combines performance with music in education. One of the most famous examples of the power of music education is El Sistema from Venezuela. Children from the slums of Caracas are brought together and trained to form the flamboyant Simón Bolívar Orchestra. Design function: help marginalized communities. Producer: José Antonio Abreu. Connector: a music education platform connecting poor Latin American children with concert halls all over the world. Audience: me. Implementation mechanism: the state of Venezuela. Let's take a quick look at our permaculture principles, which this project follows. Observe and interact. People are lifted out of poverty. Catch and store energy. Young people's talent and dedication is harvested. Obtain a yield. Income for the musicians and their families is generated. Career opportunities open up through exposure. Apply self-regulation and accept feedback. These kids learn an instrument and play with others to a very high standard. Use small and slow solution. These musical skills are developed over time. Use and value diversity. The project involved marginalized youth of different social and ethnic backgrounds. Use edges and value the marginal. Huge investment by the state of Venezuela in disadvantaged communities. We can also add people care and fair share. By the way, in the UK, a similar project called Liverpool in Harmony has been directly inspired by El Sistema. But obviously, any type of music education has the potential to make a real difference to a young person's life. And the benefits of music education are very, very well researched. Next, let's look at music in ritual. This is music designed to connect us with community, with nature, and with ourselves. Let me ask you, what rituals do you have in your life where music plays a role? The weddings, Christmas carols, happy birthday to you, you'll never walk alone, church services, going clubbing on the weekend, national anthems, or May Day here in Oxford with our streets full of local bands at sunrise. Have you ever been part of a musical ritual where the aim was to connect and to honor Mother Nature? A few generations ago, we had many more rituals like that than today. Harvest celebrations, sowing prayers. We celebrated seasonal changes and made offerings to trees in springs. When we connected with the natural powers our lives depended on, we devoted music, dance, and poetry to the encounter between us and the land. Much of this tradition is gone. What's worse, the devotional attitude informing it is gone too. Much of permaculture is based on indigenous knowledge. Part and parcel of this knowledge is musical culture framing nature connection. Nature connection is experienced through musical practice, and because of it, in many indigenous cultures, a dialogue with nature without music is unthinkable. Many of the instruments we play today were first designed and manufactured during the Ice Age using bones, stones, wood, hides, and even stalactites. Their sound gave voice to the natural world. Through the instrument, humans and nature could step in contact. We copied the songs of birds and imitated animal movements in our dances. If a lack of heartfelt nature connection is at the core of our current crisis, we would be well advised to review our relationship to ritual. Have a look now at this Kenyan group of men digging a field. No one is handing the fiddle player a hoe, telling him to make himself useful. He is useful. He is injecting rhythm, song, movement, fun, and community into the work party. He is a custodian of one of permaculture's key principles: integrate rather than segregate. Work and play, song and soil, dance and labor. Nothing could be further from our Western mode of industrial agriculture. What would our fiddle player say to a lone farmer mechanically working her many acres? Seeing things from an integrated and artistic angle encourages us to be less outcome-driven and more relationship and process-focused. Let's look at two more examples a bit closer to home. Music with lyrics, and these lyrics conveying important information. For instance, 3 Acres and a Cow use music and text to educate us about the history of land rights in this country. The Formidable Vegetable Orchestra educates us about the permaculture principles and thus transforms David Holmgren's and Wilf Richards' writings on the principles into catchy rhymes and imaginative videos. Activists recently sang "We Shall Overcome" in Parliament Square in London before being arrested by the hundreds. And lastly, on our list of examples of meaningful musical practices, there's music in healing. New research has measured the positive effect music has on the brain, on our mood, how it improves our communication and concentration skills. We have music therapy, music for special needs, in hospitals, prisons, music for dementia, and palliative care. We take gong baths and sound journeys. We have a rich tradition here. However, compared to other cultures, these musical interventions often take place behind doors in specialized environments without the participation of the general public. And therefore, the general public rarely sees the healing power of music in its full magic, in its ability to gently lead a patient on a journey of small and slow steps towards recovery. Okay, so we have looked at a few examples of the application of music as performance, in education, in ritual, as a healing practice, and as conveying messages through language. While we in the Western world are rich in some of these practices, we have also seen that we are quite poor in others. Our Western musical culture is dominated by music not as interaction, but as entertainment. Recorded music pervades every aspect of our lives, but it rarely makes us interact with others. On the contrary, we often use music to shut us off from having to deal with others in the outside world. Let me ask you, when was the last time you stood around the piano in someone's living room and sang songs with others? When did you last dance with a partner? When did you last hold a musical instrument in your hands? When did you last see musicians jamming or improvising? Does music feature in your life as an interpersonal connector, not just as a playlist? Yes, we go to gigs and we go to concerts, but there the divide between stage and audience is rarely bridged. Go to other less industrialized cultures, and you will most likely experience that music is there primarily for everyone to connect and participate. Such was the case when I traveled to Casamance, Senegal, where I encountered different communities of the Jola people, a vibrant and extremely varied musical culture in rural villages all over the region. Since none of these rural musicians had ever been recorded, I bought some portable recording gear and offered people free recordings. So allow me to use my own work as an example for the last application of music of this talk, recordings. I said earlier that music is a function stacking powerhouse. In the context I was in Senegal as a foreigner with a portable recording studio, I slowly realized that for these artists having their first musical recording meant a truly impressive stack of functions. This is because recordings are a sellable product, a promotional tool, a documentation of their cultural heritage, a tool for analysis and revision for an artist, a form of validation for an artist. Recordings are a learning environment to gain recording experience. They communicate valuable messages to a broad audience, and recordings display regional differences to a broad local audience. And just on that last point, imagine my surprise when I played a recording of the kalonkonye, which is a traditional Jola mouthbow, in a village 2 hours away from where I had done the recording the day before. And no one there had ever heard of this instrument, even though it was an integral part of Jola tradition. Here I was, a complete outsider, but because of the recording we had made, I delivered a message of cultural heritage to a wider audience, and my audience's surprise and curiosity signaled to me that this was relevant to them. Here it was loud and clear, harvesting music as a local resource in the context of rural Casamance in the form of recordings was creating value for a lot of people. So I decided to record artists for free, to give them full rights to their work, to ask them to donate 1 or 2 tracks for a compilation CD. I then used those tracks for crowdfunding, which went towards a community-led reforestation project. I raised £2,500 while giving these artists greater exposure to a Western audience. So let's revisit the design structure of this work. Function, plant trees and support artists. Designer producer, me. Connector, recorded music, the bios, the images, the lyrics. Audience, you. Implementation, local community does the planting and the educational work around sustainable wood harvesting. Here, music connects you, the audience, with the very real problem of deforestation in Casamance. So to finish, let's look at design. Let's talk about how you, a person with much or little experience in music, might harvest music as a local resource. Let's imagine you are bringing together your design function as well as a locally available musical resource. For example, the design function could be that we're trying to raise money for a communal apple press. And we could involve the local Cayley band, whose bass player is your mate. So to get started, we could choose the application of music. Shall we do a gig as a one-off fundraiser event, for example? Shall we make it a 5-week Ceilidh dance course as education? Shall we have a song competition where composers sing about apples? Shall we produce a compilation of old songs about cider drinking? Shall we invent a new apple harvesting ritual? Shall we publish a recipe book or invite a herbalist to speak about the health benefits of the apple? Navigating your way through the design web with these possibilities, you will start narrowing down your ideas and start making some decisions of what works best for your circumstances. One thing is certain, however, simply because it is very typical for any musical project. On the day that you will proudly inaugurate your Apple Press, so much more will have happened than just raising funds. Community will have been created. Learning has taken place. Barriers will have been transcended. There will be joy, there will be enthusiasm, and there will be togetherness. Why? Because nothing beats a good Ceilidh. But there's another important outcome here to mention. By you applying music, among other things, as a local resource in your design, you are enlivening culture around you. You teach musicians that their music can help press apples. And you will encourage others to pick up an instrument and teach them that sharing music in community leads to tangible outcomes, thus creating a spiral of cultural abundance. Whatever you use music for, you will obtain a wide variety of yields, simply because the arts are so close to who we are. I hope I've been able to remind you that music is central to life, central to how we have developed, central to how we interact with others and with the land, and therefore central to how we can make a difference. Thank you.